Physical freedom, the body's ability to obey the will. I think that's as simple as you can make it. I want to do something, my will, but I need to be able to do that thing. I can want something all day long, but if I don't have the capabilities to accomplish that thing, it's all for naught unless I do the work to actually, obtain those capabilities. We're talking about freedom today. Physical freedom. So this is from Abraham Lincoln in 1857. He said, a standard maxim for free society, constantly looked to, constantly labored for, and even though never perfectly attained, constantly approximated. That's an interesting quote. And I think that it's going to do well for us as we lead into talking about what does freedom and physicality actually mean. Because when I see this, James, and let's use, I know we talked about America. Let's use America as a case study. Okay. We're not going to necessarily use America as a rule book and how we're going to shape this conversation, but I think it's a really, really good case study. And you've heard it said so many times before. It's like no one's sought to aim so high, as a country, as it relates to freedom.
The first thing came to mind was that autonomy is this general idea around this freedom. But when we talk about physical freedom, I think it becomes a little bit more. So autonomy could mean, freedom to do a whole bunch of things. But when it comes under physical freedom, I think we get a little bit more specific to maybe our neck of the woods, kind of stuff that we could talk about. That from soldiers and laborers all the way up to the current manufactured construction of like willfully doing contractions, right? Besides the fact that I think that's folly, it's still something that we do. With regards to good old Abe's commentary there, I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to even start with like something tied to just the definition of where we're going to land on physical freedom without like pausing for a really long time to think about just how powerful those words are. Continue to think and have, a number of minds like we are participating in today, in 3 days before the big birthday, around that idea. Let's continually wrestle with it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, but let's stay here on like this foundational thought experiment around this idea of freedom before we get into physical freedom. We'll get there. But I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that there's a difference between freedom for and freedom from? Like when we start thinking about like, the truest and most foundational definition of freedom, is there a difference between those two angles? Freedom for something and freedom from something?
I haven't wrestled with that idea yet. So if you gave more and more examples, I think we'd be able to like go back and forth on where it may or may not apply. But the way you said it in the end as an example of freedom from whatever this is that's constraining, but it allows freedom for these kind of things.
Yeah.
I think that may answer my question really as to how I view it. It looks like what you're free from is probably something to reflect upon as to what guarantees what you're free for.
Yeah.
In the example that you gave, I could see that. And then I'd have to, as I said, think long and hard about multiple different situations in culture and in the physical universe and, a bunch of other areas to see if that's a principle.
Physical freedom, the body's ability to obey the will. That's like, that's, I think that's as simple as you can make it. We need to give some context to that, and we need to challenge that, of course. But this says a couple things, and it kind of it harpens back to autonomy as well, right? And this was what I was trying to get to when we kind of went back and forth last week. When you're like, "Hey, I need you to expand on that. I don't know exactly what you mean." This is essentially what I was talking about. It's like I want to do something, my will, but I need to be able to do that thing. I can want something all day long, but if I don't have the capabilities to accomplish that thing, it's all for naught unless I do the work to actually, obtain those capabilities. So I think a very simple definition of physical freedom is the body's ability to obey the will. Okay. We have to identify what our will is, and then we have to do the thing. What are your thoughts there, James? Give me your definition of physical freedom. We went to Zion a few weeks ago, James, and there were a couple people that, were like, hey, how hard are the hikes? How hard are the hikes going to be that we're going to do? Right. And it's like, oh, well, not that hard. Right. That's such a relative blanket statement. They asked that because they're like, I want to do those hikes, but I don't know if I have the capability to do those hikes right now in this moment. So am I free to like just go, with the team to Zion to like endeavor on these hikes that everyone else is going to do? Right. So if the person is thinking like, man, I actually can't do that. Yeah, I agree with you. Like everyone has the innate ability to do it, but that innate ability probably doesn't exist right in this given moment for everyone.
Well, but the innate ability to do a hike does. Yeah, they're in. Like I think we went back to the lady who was off the couch, right, walking down the street. So
yeah,
but so they do have the ability to do something, and then we can get into the knowledge that needs to be acquired from experience of something.
What I get from what you're saying, James, is you're saying everyone has the innate ability to do. I don't want to put words in your mouth because you didn't say that exactly, but let's say most people have the innate ability to do most things. Is that fair?
Yes, on a scale, recognizing what they're capable of, recognizing what they're capable of, and then recognizing that it's for them.
Yep.
So that's where I simplified that concept of do it for you and do it because you can.
Yeah. Right.
So, the for you thing we're not talking about today. Because you can, we are talking about today. And I'm saying that, don't listen, for everyone listening, don't get caught in when I say everyone, sure. Give me 3 examples in a stadium of 18,000 people that actually can't stand up. Okay. You got me. But there's 17,997 that can, right? So there's this, that's what I mean by that. That's the scale of capabilities.
Yeah, that's, I don't think you're muddying that at all, James. That's super clear. Okay. Let me ask you something though, for that same listener that's listening to this and they're like, okay, I like this. I like where this conversation's going. I'm trying to like really think through, how I take these thoughts and implement it, right? Or give people advice or have conversations with people. Let's say that, someone listening does have someone that's like, hey, I am capable of getting up and walking, right? So I am capable of doing some kind of hike, but my aims are to do this one hike. Like for whatever reason, it's like, it's just outside of my capabilities. What advice would you give that person that's listening and they are working with someone that they're trying to help, that they're trying to guide, to be able to do something that they are not today capable of?
Yeah, well, I think then it goes back to the for you point. You got to talk to them about intentions, because to use our term we were just getting into, when you get into specific examples of, and I always, it's not just you, but a lot of people always try to kind of catch me on this one, right? And now and I think then it gets really muddy because, there's a lot of listeners that and listen, I'm just being empathetic when I say this, it's very tough for you to put your mind in that situation where you don't have to do a bench press. Like there's nothing that says you ever need to do a hard back squat in your life. So you see that even to say those 2 statements, like it'll crack some people, right? It's like, wait, now I need to press pause. And if you need to press pause right now and then come back, that's fine. But do you see my point?
Yeah. Let's say that you're in that situation and you're like, well, it's kind of stupid to want to do that thing. Obviously there's going to be some elaboration behind that, or maybe you say it in a different way, James, but how would you handle that?
Yeah, I would. Well, today I would handle it differently than what I maybe did as a starting coach. So just to clear that up, so coaches are like, oh, you don't need to know this from day one. Well, you need to practice over time. But to tie in perfectly what we talked about last week, there would have to be this discussion, right? Like, as I said, we have to have this discussion with the client that says, you do understand this is all constructed. It's just a construction of like things for me to do and give to you so that you can learn, so you can be autonomous. Right. So then, and until the client goes, oh man, I get it. Right. Then you can lay what's the, are we going to do this hike as a practice of skills to gain autonomy long term, so you can like bring your family and teach others and like gather other people around it and stand on a rock and throw the holy water about physical freedom? Yes, then we got it. So that's how I would generally handle it. Start with the, as we said, I forget what we said last time, Carl, but start with this acceptance. Start with acceptance, right? Listen, we both are free movers. We are deciding to have this fair trade agreement of knowledge thrown on that side, and then learning, or whatever, however they, I'm just going to, you just toss this knowledge over and you're going to pay me for that knowledge. But there's an end game of that, right? That end game is and this is maybe where it ties in my definition of physical freedom. I guess when you graduate, that's the concept of physical freedom. Yeah. You're not paying anyone for the teaching of, or the knowledge of, or the skills. You got them, right? And when you got those things, you're free. You're truly free. Now, I guess there's like a scale on freedom, which is interesting, that I never really put to paper, but there's always that concept of what, are we just talking about freedom so they're a free mover and they're all alone, and we get into that area like we did last week around, well, what can those freedoms lead to if you're not helping others? So you see the others aspect in there. That's I guess I would call that a higher order concept of freedom. That which leads to teaching young people, teaching people that are willing to learn, teaching those around you who have no idea of this concept of physical freedom. Do you see what I'm saying? So now we have one free mover, but they give off this energy, right? That people are like, wow, there's something that you have to either say and in your actions that I want a part of, and you can do that right within your community. So that would be the highest order version of freedom, perhaps.
What's the point of physical freedom? Like, what's the point of this aim to be physically free?
Yeah, well, in modern times, really, it's to allow yourself to have the most mentally acute, largest life possible. Well, you are constructing physical activities, and you're trying to find solutions for them. And those challenges are on either end of the spectrum of really hard contractions and fairly easy, sustainable contractions. You're aware that you're constructing this, and it allows you to continue to strive to become better physically relative to your capabilities as you age from 3 to 96. It's meaning like at 61, you're not going to get better, but you're going to continually strive to get as best as you can be from like 61 to 97. And I say that because a lot of people understand better, but a lot of people don't understand the concept of what better means when you actually can't get absolutely better.
Why should we think about not physical freedom, but why should we think about physicality? And why should we marry challenge and physicality together? Like, why should those things always be considered?
Yeah, well, they don't have to be. That's the thing. Because I guess the baseline argument, which is a good one, you don't actually have to be, like as we say in layman's terms, you don't have to exercise, right? You don't have to do that. I mean, that's, again, it's a in modern times, it's always the argument, well, you got to exercise because we're gluttons, right? So if you don't exercise, we're all going to be fat slobs. This is really the largest reason as to why we should exercise today, the underpinnings of all of it, right? Why? Oh, you're going to be a slob, you're going to have disease, and you're going to whatever. It's like, well, that's not a good reason to exercise, right? So then you could say, well, how about we do all the things that don't result in you being a slob and you being a glutton? Well, then now it's an interesting point. It's like, well, I guess you got to exercise so you can fend off all the warriors coming to take your children, right? Well, that's not happening today. Okay, so see, now it's like, well, what's the reason for physicality? So that's why I start with, well, in modern times, it's going to result in you being able to remain as mentally acute as possible for as long as possible. That's it. So then you're like, well, what are the physical challenges to your question, hard and easy? Well, I don't choose those. That's a biological imprint that's been around for a really long time, right? And listen, there's no more science needed to be done to determine, what those kinds of contractions are. They really do go into two buckets. And I honestly am past the point where I need to explain that to people. And I'm not shirking right now, but, take some time to think about it for yourself. So challenging, where I climb a rope and I'm going to stop climbing. So that's an example, right? Like, ask the question, why do I stop climbing? Is it my will? No, it's not my will. There's a limitation. And so that right there is called a harder physical challenge, right? So I walk and after 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm still walking. And after 2 hours, I'm like, still walking. You see, those are still contractions that are happening, but they're easy contractions. That would be on the easy realm.
I think there's a number of people that hear you talk, James, and they're like, man, that's inspiring. Like, I agree. No, yeah, for real. I agree with that. Like, I get where you're coming from, and I see it, right? Like, with the Joffrey example, it's like, dude, I see that. Like, I get that. And I'm telling you, man, like, the reason why I'm saying that there's a lot of those out there is because I talk to them a lot, where they don't know what it is in them that feels like ick, but like, they just feel ick when it comes to like participating in the game and participating in acquisition and in social media and in this. They don't know why, but it's like it's like in them where they're just like, it just feels like I'm performing. You know what I mean? It's like, it feels like I'm doing something and I'm leading someone to something that I'm not actually going to deliver on. So for that person, let's say that it's a lot, or let's say it's just one, I don't know. But for that person, how do you get someone excited? How do you make that cool, James? Like, and now I want to dig into like, how you consult with people, right? Like, what does a conversation generally look like? I know you can go really deep on this, but generally, like, what does that conversation look like with someone?
Everyone is capable of learning that idea. Now, they may not get it the first session, but you got to throw it across the table, right? So here's some homework. Try it. Try it. Sit across from someone. Right. No, but I mean, don't worry. They're not, if that client is going to be like, well, if you're saying that you want me to be independent and therefore I'm out, fucking get rid of that client. That you do not want that person is poison to you and to your brain and to your brand. Right. And if you're surrounded by all those people, sister, you got a brother, you got a lot of years to like work your way out of that system. Anyways, to back up, you gotta, as homework, try it. Throw it across the table. Say it like this. I just learned about this concept and I gotta be, and you can say it like this. Doesn't mean this is in your mind, but you could say it like this. It's really bothering me that I do fundamentally believe, Lisa, that every human has the ability to be a free mover. And they can gain the skills from people around them to become someone who's never dependent on anyone for the rest of their life for activities and challenges. And I know this in my heart, but I can't, it seems like I just landed in this pit of rehab. I landed in this dystopic novel of this back and forth dependency. And I'm telling you, it's ripping me apart. So try it like that, and then you may get a client be like, James, I think you need to see a therapist. Or they may be like, yeah, well, these are the things that I think about that it scares me when we discuss these things, right? And so now you got them. Now it's like, I thought about that too, right? Like, what do we do when you don't need me? At least we're talking about it, right? So what do we do? Well, let's pile on all those skills. Oh, I'm afraid of being independent. Okay, that's something we can work on. That's something. What's your fears of independence, right? What's your fears of that? Right. And then you get into the darker side, as I said, it's like, oh, geez, I'm afraid to take responsibility. It's great that we know this, right? It's great that we're not changing our program. I'm still moving forward, but I can't let you go today without me telling you what I'm feeling in my heart. I know it now. So there you go. That's some homework where you can start. And inside of that answer was possibly the way I would quote unquote answer it today. And I do need to shirk, right? Or work, because don't anyone listening believe that I didn't pull people along. I feel there's a lot of regret I have for the thousands of people that I pulled along, but I didn't have the knowledge. Believe me, I had good intentions, but I didn't have the knowledge, right? Then over time you start seeing it, and then it's stuck around you. So it is kind of sad, but also happy for you to say the words that you do speak with coaches today that have that, like you described it as the ickiness, right? And I feel gratitude that people actually have that in them, because there's something that you want to use, like Ray LaMontagne says, you want to use that as fuel for your fire, right? He described it in words that was so beautiful, of like hatred that someone has for someone else, and then you observe it, you want to use that as fuel for your fire to love another. It's just, he's a magical writer. So
I think a lot of that, fear on the client side, James, because they're a client of a fitness coach, they're in that wheel, right? Or they're a part of this, like, this game of like, well, this stuff is way too complex for me. And I'll never understand this thing. So I need to hire someone that understands this much, much, much better than me. And there's like that barrier in a lot of people. And I've worked with a lot of people like this as well, James, where they're just like, it's so complicated. And it's like, you have a couple different types of coaches. Number one, you have the coach that's like, yeah, it is really complicated, but I know this stuff and I can help you. But you also have the coach that's on the other side of the spectrum, like, yeah, there's some complicated things inside of this, but it's actually very simple, right? Complicated doesn't always mean complex. Sometimes complicated can be made really simple. And my goal is to teach you the simple things so that you can go off and do this on your own, right? But, it's easy for us to sit here on video call and talk like that, right? And say, coaches, like, think about this and consider it. But something that I always tell coaches, it's like, you have to have an aim for all of your clients that's independent of all of theirs, right? So it's like, you have to have an overarching goal for all the people that you work with, no matter what their individual goals are. And this is an idea of what that goal can be, right? My goal for all of my clients is to lead them to physical freedom. Imagine if that's your goal, the conversations are going to be different. This conversation, well, hold on. I need to mention something else there. Have an aim for all of your clients independent of all of their aims, but you also have to let them know that that's your aim for them.
Yes.
And so that's what you just walked through. You're sitting down and you're talking to that person.
I was saying like, the general aim. I said what the general aim should be.
Yeah.
Right? The should word. I put imperative language inside of there for it.
Yep.
And it should be independence.
Yeah. Yeah, which is freedom, right? Physical freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, it's autonomy, it's physical freedom, it's all that stuff, right? But man, yeah, that's really good. What sorry, I'm going to keep going on that.
Yeah.
What's inside, like, let's say that coach and that client are sitting across from each other, James, and there's like just complete agreement. And it's like a weight has just been lifted off me and I now feel empowered to go along in this journey with you. Okay. Mm-hmm. What is that coach like? And you don't have to get ultra specific here, but generally, what is that coach now giving this client for the next 12 months or 13 months or 6 months, however long that journey is with them,
Yeah.
what are they giving them? Like they have their Coach RX up in front of them. It's like, what's going inside of that Coach RX?
Case we're all waiting for a magical answer. It's not that magical, but it's dressed up with the same principles of getting them the skills to do for themselves hard and easy contractions for themselves for the rest of their life. So it's the skills inside of that. And we're only talking the physical aspect here, right? So I guess we could stream into like the skills for eating, the skills for how they take care of themselves and our energy level throughout the day. And
let's stick to physical. Yeah, let's stick to physical.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So it's really just those skills. You're just piling up all those skills, really, of the hard and the easy challenges, so that they could, with that idea in mind as to what that's going to look like, right? So, and it may look like something different for, some people like me, I still take down notes, like I'm pen and paper. I'll put stuff down. If you come into my gym, I don't know if you remember, in my gym, up on the wall there with a pencil, I have like scores, like airdyne or weightlifting. Like, it's just like that's just my notes, right? But these are just things that I'm just taking down in kind of like a debrief. So anyways, you're painting the picture for that person as to what it's going to look like the whole time. So you're going forward, let's just say it's 12 months down the road, and then you're coming back to present time. So you'll say something like this: Lisa, you're going to do this movement where you're going to push this load away from you, and then it's going to come back towards you due to gravity or the position that you're in. And then you're going to do it a number of times. And what's going to happen, Lisa? And Lisa's going to be like, well, I guess I'm going to get tired. Okay, why are you getting tired there? And then she says, oh, it's because these contractions can only go on so long. Okay, great. So is that an easy or hard contraction? That's a hard contraction. What kind of movement is it? It's a pushing movement. Oh, do you see that? So now Lisa's like, I'm downloading, right? And I'm rewiring my brain to that day, 12 months down the road, but now we're present time, right? What am I going to be doing in 12 months, Lisa? You're probably going to be doing some pushing, challenging contraction. And now it's into like, now it's in a little block. And listen, I know you're not going to challenge me, but don't try to put me in a corner and challenge me that humans can't get that. Please, like, we think humans are, a lot of people classify humans as being so stupid, right? We are tremendously intelligent at gaining independence, tremendously intelligent, but we don't want it because we're scared shitless of all the other things, right? Now, I should say on top of that, which I forgot that I just thought about as I was saying that, the scared shitless thing always brings this up. So bear with me here. You also have to discuss in that consultation, when they leave, they will get everything outside of the room in your office that tells them that they're a sucker and that they should be following the other 37 versions of fitness. Right? Now, this is a modern reality. So if you're like, well, I'm not influential enough, and I know that term is ugly today, but it's still true. I'm not influential enough with my client that when I give them these, beautiful rainbow and butterfly moments, when they leave, they're going to come back and they're going to feel that they can't gain that independence anymore. And you're going to just do this over and over and over with people. And you're nodding your head because I had people surrounded me and coaches who were just stuck in that situation, right? And it's almost like the system, and this is where we talk about culture. The culture won't allow it. That's why I'm really short on independence for most humans in America. So when you asked last week, like, what's your thoughts or your prognosis for it? I think it's really dark and ugly. There'll be more. It's going downhill. It's not going uphill. There's no progress on it. There's no gaining of it. It's significant. And the reason why, the system is all built to move people towards attention seeking around what they're doing in their day-to-day practices for physical freedom. And that's just, that's built into generations now. that's inside of the next generation. And there's, the generation above that is like, it's like candy to them. They can't stop touching it. So I'm not sure, I kind of lost track there, but I had to tell people that, if you just want to help one person, let them know, listen, when you leave here, shit we've been discussing is daft. It's bats in the belfry. Your shit's crazy. Just as a heads up. And they're like, oh no, I don't think so. How about next session, you come back and tell me about all the things you see in your sister, in your friends, in society, in interviews, in commercials, in billboards. It's in your car, in your phone, in your church, right? It's everywhere. It's just built in, right? It's just built in. So let's discuss that next time. And they'll be like, I don't know. And then they come back, they're like, man, there's no way out of this. Because I can't trust you. This is what they'll say. I can't trust you, James. Like, you're saying this, but I got 37 other arguments for you, right? I got this doctor podcast who says this, and they have 20 million followers. So how can you be right on your talk on chewing broccoli and patterns of pushing? You see what I'm saying? Now we're back to like, well, how do we make it cool? There's no chance of making it cool. But you can learn. You can learn. Meaning like maybe it doesn't have to be cool, but maybe you can attain the knowledge. Maybe. And maybe I'm crazy still.
Yeah. I as you were talking, Leanne sent me a text message with a picture of your board. And there you are right there, James.
Love that film so much.
There's a live image of James and his patterning and his breathing data on his wall and his
there's meaning inside of those triangles.
You guys have the same hair. Look at that.
Function being will. Actually, it's a little straight, but
cool. Awesome. No, thanks for that. That was really good. That was very insightful. So I appreciate that. So I mean, this changes
I don't practice a lot anymore of talking full stream of consciousness, so it's all over the place. So thanks for being patient.
Yeah, man. This might change some perspectives, right? Because everything that you've laid out so far and everything that we've talked about so far, there's like this, what is fitness for question, that I think we get asked sometimes. I actually had a really good podcast. An old CCP coach was kind enough to ask me to join his podcast yesterday. And he did ask that question, like, what is fitness and what is it for? And I was like, man, that's a very, very big question. And I had to connect it to resilience. I had to connect it to, having the ability to, be resilient in our day to day, by the truest definition of fitness. Right. But I think that based on what you said just now in that, and I don't want to call it a rant, a little bit of a rant.
Hot take, as the kids would say.
Hot take. Yeah. I don't know if the kids are saying hot take anymore. My boys say things and I'm like,
well, that may be like 3 months ago. Stuff happened so fast. They weren't doing it 3 months ago.
So what is fitness for, right? Like fitness, by that definition of fitness freedom, it's not for aesthetics. It's not for PRs. It's not for other people. It's not to live longer as a means to an end. I wrote something down here. It's like, the goal is not to live longer. It's to, it is the freedom to fully live. Right. I think that's because I get that icky feeling when I hear the word longevity now, because it's so meaningless, right? It's like the means to an end is just to like be here for as long as possible. Yeah. That seems kind of sad, right? It's like, that's my only purpose in life, is just to exist for as long as I possibly can. And, based on what as you were going through that, I wrote that down. The goal is not to live longer. It is the freedom to fully live and fully live. It's like, that needs to be qualified, and that is extremely individual for every person. But yeah.
fully live to make those choices, right? Because it is sad where you see people participating in this nonsense, right? And from the outside looking in, they look like they're really serious and disciplined, but it's sad because they're going to be 85 and they spent like 70 years of their life, trying to be that perfection of this like nonstop anxiety around like, oh, look at me with regards to the discipline for the longevity. And you missed out on 70 years of like a presence with your child, 70 years of lost opportunity to speak with a friend around what concepts of physical freedom was, right? I could give them a million stories, right? So that's why I think it's sad, because people can miss out on so many great things. This is what you mean when you say fully live. Like I'm qualifying it slightly, right? There's a lot in there, right? It's to see a lot of things, to understand constraints, what you're capable of, but in the end, do it for you because you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the simplest way. Simplest way. Can you carry your kid, get up off the floor, hug with your family, kneel, play the game, climb the mountain? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, what does all this mean? Right. Like these are important to some people and not important to others. Right. Yeah. So like I was watching, do you know who Chris Johnson is, James?
No.
Running back, used to be a running back, played for the Titans, went to Eastern Carolina, set like a 40-yard dash record, ran like a 4.2 back in the day.
Okay.
But the guy's younger than me. He's 38 years old. And I see him on like Good Morning America 2 days ago, announcing that he got diagnosed with ALS. And it progressed very quickly. He found out 2025, and then today he's down 80 pounds and can't talk. And you look at the guy and you're like, oh my God, like doesn't even look like the dude that I remember, right? And he was because we have the technology to do this now, they recorded his voice and he's like now speaking by visualization. And he said like the one thing that I miss the most is being able to pick my daughter up. And he literally said, he's like, this time last year, and they showed the photo, he was like, I was picking my daughter up so she can blow out her candles for her birthday. And he's like, it's something that I'm really wrestling with, that I know that I'll never be able to do that again. Right. So for him, like that is so important. Right. Someone else might hear that and they're like, well, I don't have a daughter, or I don't have kids, or maybe that's just not important to me. I was at mass last weekend and there was people that couldn't kneel. Right. Like they didn't have the ability to kneel down, and you could tell that they really wanted to. So they kind of got into like this position that was like their version of that. And I thought about that. I'm like, man, not like the inability to do the things that you want to do. My will says I want to do this thing, but I don't have the capability and ability to do those things, or play the game with the kid or climb the mountain, whatever the case is. This is super interesting to dig into. And this isn't new. Like, I remember us talking about this years and years ago. And I remember you saying very specifically, identify what you want to do when you're 85 and reverse engineer and do the things today that are going to lead to you being able to do those things when you're 85. So if the goal is to climb that mountain when you're 85, what are you doing today? And is that leading to you climbing that mountain when you're 85? And that changed my perspective. I'm like, well, that person doesn't need to be snatching, right? That person doesn't,
Or breaking their neck on handstand push-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. So, super fascinating. So I would, as a part of that conversation, to take it back to that earlier conversation that we had years ago, that's something that I would talk about in that consultation. Like really dig into like, what are those things that you do want to do in those later years in life physically? Like, what does physical freedom mean to you? And then you're reverse engineering from those things, and it's like it's very tactical. It's very in your face. It's obvious, right? And now it's like, now when I let you go and you're going off and you're doing your own thing now, because now you know how to do this thing for yourself. Remember those things. Don't get lost in the sauce. Don't let this person convince you that you should be doing these things. Don't let this person convince you of all-cause mortality, and this person talking about VO2 max and muscle mass and the 4x4 method and all that stuff. It's like, that's just noise, right? Keep your eye on the prize and understand that it's unbelievably simple. It's unbelievably simple, but sometimes it's complicated, and you have to find your way through that complication to make those things really simple.
Yeah. Well, like you just said, maybe coaches can learn from that as another part of homework. Give it language, give it your own language. There's nothing wrong with saying like, you're going to get 37 other voices outside of my voice is going to say this, but we're part of the free movement group, or we're a part of the independence group. And you don't need to be, but I'm just telling you, like, this is the language that we're using from here forward. And just, as I said, have the balls or ovaries, to say that, say it across the table. Maybe put up the max physical potential chart in your own layman's terms behind your wall, right? Maybe put up visuals in your gym that are true, functional, live a larger life concepts of hard and easy contractions, right? So that people see, people are like, oh, wow, you don't have asses and body parts sticking out, and like people with no clothes on as your epitome of what you're, I'm saying? Like, yep. Maybe everything around you is not helping you with your language. Maybe you're just all talk and you got nothing else surrounding you that's going to help that client move forward on. And I just thought about that as you were talking about the Chris Johnson story. You gotta live it yourself, which maybe we'll get to another time. But the responsibility of coaches to be able to create those behaviors for themselves, right? Maybe we'll get to it another time. But how my discomfort that I have with this thing that all coaches need coaches. Yeah, I argue that. Mm-hmm. I argue that because that's you're showing then your clients that you're dependent. So how are you going to talk about independence if you're dependent, right? Oh, I don't have the ability to do it on my own because I get into trouble. That's a bad excuse not to do your own stuff. See what I'm saying? So that's another thing for another time. But we're just talking about how you can reflect as a coach to the client around what this concept is of freedom and independence. Well, you start with language, like Carl, you were just saying, right? Create the language around it so you can call it something, and then get behind it. And then just, again, we finished on this week like we did last week, just realize it's just accept it. You're just a part of the thing. It's a game, and just play it to be fulfilled so that you feel like, as I told you, it's still admirable and worthy to keep trying to teach people and to keep trying to gain independence and freedom for yourself. That's a very admirable trait. Awesome. Let's end it there. And it's not cool. Yeah, let's end it there. That was good, James. I appreciate that. I think those were your parting words. I was going to ask you, do you have any parting words? Yeah. That's good. Yep. Awesome. Well, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. And James, thank you as always. Of course, bro. Take care, everyone.